Albany.
We use that everywhere all the time. What, I guess what?
Like a variation of it.
Yeah. Get out of here. You and your free. I had to go to the game to your player line yesterday. Oh my goodness. I think you should have seen crazy people. We're just hanging out with the movie. It was an experience. I was like, oh, I think we're just there for
Ready? Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're calling to order this regular meeting of the Albany Unified School District Board of Education. Today, Tuesday, April 8th, and the time is 7 o'clock. Could we get a roll call, please?
Student Trustee Shepard.
Here.
Student Trustee Debdar.
Here.
Trustee Inglis.
Here.
Trustee Khan.
Here.
Trustee Davidson.
Here.
Vice President Mahoney.
Here.
President Hopwood.
Here.
Superintendent Stone.
Here. Right. So now we'll have the reading of the AUSD mission and vision statement and meeting norms from our student trustees.
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment addressing the individual needs of each student.
Meeting norms. Maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully. Endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's belief in what is best for our students. Make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Thank you. And now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice President Mahoney for those who would like to participate. Thank you. And now we're moving on to item 4, report of action taken in closed session, and the board took no action in closed session. And item 5 is approval of the agenda. Anyone like to move to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Oh, second. All in favor say aye.
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 So the agenda passes unanimously. Now we're moving on to our spotlight, which is Ocean View Elementary School, and here to present is Principal Anna Delgado. Welcome. Thank you. So quick.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Good to see you all. So one thing that we have been really focused on this year at Ocean View Elementary is bringing back to life our PBIS and positive behavior supports, as well as our incentive program, and trying as best we can to motivate and empower the students at our school to really embody the parts of PBIS that we talk about often: being safe, being respectful, being responsible, and being an ally. So I have some friends from Ocean View that are going to share a little bit about how we do that at Ocean View.
Being safe at Ocean View means keeping your hands to yourself.
Being safe is walking in the classroom. Being safe means to not hurt people's feelings. Being respectful means helping other friends when they're hurt and tell a teacher. Respectful means listening to your friends and teachers when they tell you to do something or stop. Being respectful is listening to something the first time.
Being respectful at Ocean View means raising your hand to speak.
Means listening to the teacher and following the speaker.
Being responsible at Ocean View means doing the teacher's work. Doing the child's work, I guess. Being responsible at Ocean View means cleaning up after yourself. Being an ally means treating everyone equally.
An ally means when people are hurt, bringing them to the office. So being an ally means to be a friend when somebody's hurt.
So one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about this slide is one thing that we do regularly at Ocean View is we have something called otter tickets. And so otter tickets are our little incentivized sort of tickets that students, if they're being respectful, responsible, being an ally, they get a little otter ticket, and then we have little bins that they put them in. And so this is kind of what happens when students are following our, 4 Bs. And then if you go to the next slide, this is sort of what it looks like, and all the kids know about it. We're also using them during our whole group assemblies, sing-alongs, things like that to do incentivize positive behavior. And then if you go to the next slide, we have our student council members that actually do otter ticket announcements and winners every Friday. And if you are an otter ticket winner, there's usually a big hullabaloo in all the classrooms around it, and then students get a free Otter Pop ticket to get an Otter Pop the following Wednesday. So.
Our first grade winner is Mason Adams from room 4 for being a leader during learning times. Good job, Mason.
Our second grade winner is Sydney Holmstrom from room 8 for putting her best effort into learning. Congrats, Sydney.
Our third grade winner is Scarlett Foster from room 9 for picking up the playground. Way to go, Scarlett.
Our fourth grade winner is Xion Fang from room 14 for meeting her happy numbers target.
Our fifth grade winner is James Backman from room 13 for being a chair helper.
Congratulations to all of our Otter Ticket winners. You will be receiving your winning ticket next week.
This week, we estimated the number of bow-tie pasta in a jar. The actual number of bow ties was 135. Mandy in room 18 and Tenson in room 5 were our winners this week, estimating 134. Congratulations! Please come to the library and choose your prize after school, before, or during lunch recess. Have a great weekend, Ocean View.
All right, and that's just a little bit about our school, a little bit about what we've been working on, and if you all are interested, next Tuesday after spring break, we're having our Earth Day sing-along, and you're all invited to join us at 8:30, right after the morning bell, and there'll be special otter tickets for that day as well. So maybe you can get one. All right. Any questions, comments?
Well, thank you so much, and I think all of their comments about allyship and the rest was something that applies to all of us in the world, not just at Ocean View School. And congratulations on your California Distinguished School Award.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Very well deserved. Thank you.
Anyone on the board have any questions or comments?
Yes.
I love this strategy. It's so easy, but it has such a big impact for students. And, it's always nice to have them be recognized, but I especially love that you have the students announcing the winners. That's really cool.
They love it.
And I can share a little context of when Principal Delgado says it's a huge deal when you win it. Like, having been in a classroom as they were being announced and hearing a kiddo's name being called in that grade level, the whole room erupted in cheers and congratulated their classmate. That it is a big deal. Even my kiddo's gotten one a few years back, and it was a huge deal, and he was bragging about it for weeks. And it's something as simple as just an Otter Pop, but it means so much to them. And then they come tell you about why they got the ticket, or why it was important, whether or not they end up winning the Otter Pop, even just receiving that ticket and being recognized for their efforts of either being respectful, responsible, keeping their classmates safe. It shows them people are paying attention to even the small actions that you are taking and how they impact the people around them, and teaching them how to be, aware of their surroundings, to be respectful and kind. And it's just a wonderful initiative that our teachers and staff are leading, and it has a positive impact on everyone.
It really does. Yes, as you should be. Any more comments or words of appreciation? Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to move on to item 7, which is recognition, and our student board members are going to present this. It's a proclamation.
Proclamation number 2024-2507, recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas, although most of us have been able to return to our pre-pandemic lives for some time now, our community's families were deeply affected by the pandemic, with high levels of stress driven by the fear and uncertainty caused by illness, isolation, and job and healthcare loss at rates never before seen. And
whereas the trauma of the pandemic layered upon concerns about, among other things, food and housing insecurity, gun violence, climate change, political polarization, racism, transphobia, bigotry of all kinds, deportation, and armed conflict and human rights violations around the world. And
whereas children and families continue to deal with the impact of the isolation and halted academic, social, and emotional growth and development that occurred as a result of the pandemic, in addition to long overdue societal reckoning with the police violence against Black people, a spike in anti-Asian and anti-Semitic hate crimes, and significantly higher than average death rates linked to COVID-19 among Latino/Latinx, Black, and Native American communities. And
whereas the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, reported that more than 20% of youth have diagnosed mental health disorder in the United States, and the National Institution of Mental Health reported that an estimated 49.5% of U.S. adolescents aged 13 through 18 has experienced a mental health disorder of some kind at some point. And
whereas the average age of early signs of mental illness is 14 when most students are entering high school. And
whereas the U.S. Department of Education reported that only 40% of students with emotional, behavioral, and mental health disorders graduate from high school compared to the national average of 46%. And
whereas the CDC declared suicide to be the second leading cause of death among youth ages 15 to 19 years old, and reported that suicide rates among persons aged 10 to 24 years old increased by 36.6% during 2018 to 2021 among Black persons, with suicide rates for Black youth in California doubling from 2014 to 2020, as reported by the California Department of Public Health. And
whereas the number of children ages 6 through 12 who visited children's hospitals for suicidal thoughts or self-harm more than doubled since 2016, according to the Children's Hospital Association. And
whereas researchers from the University of Montreal found that students with untreated mental illnesses are more likely to be chronically absent, more disruptive in class, have lower academic achievement, and ultimately drop out. And
whereas the University of Maryland Center of School Mental Health has found that educating staff, students, and parents in the signs and symptoms of mental health illness is key to both early intervention and dismantling the stigma surrounding mental health. And
whereas the CSMH reported that students are more likely to follow through with mental health services in school settings, and bringing mental health services onto campus enables easier communication among providers, parents, and teachers. And
whereas schools that implement comprehensive mental health systems see improved academic performance, fewer special education placements, decreased disciplinary actions, and higher graduations. And
whereas spreading awareness of the importance of mental health can help people realize the many ways in which mental illness impacts them and those around them, and can provide the opportunity to learn more about available services.
Therefore, be it resolved that the Albany Unified School District Board of Education proclaims the month of May as Mental Health Awareness Month and encourages all district schools to take action that spread awareness, counteract stigma, and support students and families struggling with mental health issues. District administrators, teachers, and staff will recognize this month with appropriate instructional activities.
Thank you both very much. And now you don't get a break because we're moving on to item 8, which is student board member reports. Thank you.
At Albany High School a couple of weeks ago was Diversity Week. Every day there was an event during lunch for students to learn about other cultures at AHS. Monday was International Food Day. Tuesday, student businesses sold during lunch while the high school's jazz band played live music. Wednesday was the Diversity Assembly. All language classes had students dancing. Other independent students also performed. On Thursday, parent affiliate groups had tables during lunch in the atrium, and on Friday there was a collection of short films about diversity shown in the Little Theater during lunch. Prom is coming up. Prom is on Saturday, April 26th.
At the middle school, this Thursday is a spring soiree after school. And at Cornell Elementary School, this week is the Cornell Fun Fitness Week, where on Friday, students get to dress up as their dream job.
At Marin, Thursday is family math night from 6:15 to 7:30, and Saturday, April 26th, is the AUSD Elementary Spring Choir Festival at Memorial Park from 10 to 11 a.m. All schools and offices will be closed next week for spring break except ACC's preschool, which will remain open.
At Albany Children's Center, ACC is bringing back its biggest fundraiser, which is the Spring Fling, and it'll be held on Sunday, May 17th. Save the date and stay tuned for more details. Additionally, Albany High School had the WASC, which is the Western Association of School and Colleges Site Accreditation Team at the campus yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And yesterday, Mackenzie and I attended the student panel, where a group of 18 students discussed like the school strengths and areas of improvement with these members. That concludes our board member report.
Thank you both for your report and also for everything that you're doing to be so engaged in the community. It's really appreciated. We're now going to move on to item 9, which is public comment for matters not on the agenda. Does anybody here in person have public comment? Seeing no one. Anybody in our virtual audience? And I am again seeing no one. So we are going to move to item 10, which is approval of the consent calendar. Anybody like to move to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
All in favour say aye.
Aye.
The consent calendar passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we are at the review and action portion of our meeting. So item 11A, we will have Chief Business Official Linda Wu introducing this item, which is the AUSD Bond Measure B&E Financial and Performance Audit Report.
Good evening, Superintendent, Board President, Vice President, Board Trustees, and also student trustees. I'm here to introduce the subject matter of basically our annual audits for the bonds, Bond B and E. And at this time, we're asking the board, our recommendation is to receive the bond's annual audit report. I will turn it over to Bobby Fan, who is representing our audit firm at Christie White.
Buddy, nice to meet you guys. Are you guys able to see my screen? Anybody? Let me try once more. Okay.
We can still see your notes.
Is that good? Is that good? Can I get a response, please?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so my name is Bobby Fan. I'm a supervisor at Christie White Associates, and I help facilitate the bond audit for this fiscal year, or last fiscal year, the fiscal year of 23 to 24. Both Measure B and E were passed under Proposition 39. Therefore, the district is required to conduct an annual financial and performance audit. And the financial audit includes a review of district's processes and ending balance of June 30th, 2024 to ensure that the financial statements are fairly represented in a material respect, whereas the performance audit involves review of contracts, expenditures, and change orders. And this is pretty much a summary of our audit results of the financial and performance audits under the section titled Summary of Audit Results. That could be found in page 4 and 5 of the audit reports. As you can see, we tested approximately 236K, that's K in Measure B, and 953K in Measure E of non-personnel expenditures for validity, allowability, and accuracy. We did this by sampling the expenditures and viewing the support for each one. We concluded that the sample expenditures were in compliance with the terms of the measure ballot language, the district approves facility plan, and applicable state laws and regulations. For Measure B and E, we tested 1 change orders each, and we concluded that all change orders were properly reviewed and approved by management. There were no personal costs charged. And our opinion on each financial statements and performance audits are summarized under the schedule of findings and recommendation at the very end of each report. Overall, I'm very happy to report that we issued an unmodified opinion for both financial statements and performance audit of each bond measure. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies were identified, and no reportable findings. And that's about it. Yeah, this was a clean audit, so we didn't find any issues. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks. Any questions from the board or any comments? Public questions or comments? I'm not seeing any in person or virtually, so that's great. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, I move that we approve the bond audit findings.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And so we have received the bond measure B and E audit reports. Thank you so much. And now we are moving on to our Chief Human Resources Officer, Marina Gonzalez, for declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
Okay. Good evening. This item, this declaration of need, is it's an annual thing that we bring to the board. It's a form that we have to have on file with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, just saying that if we need to apply for, it's possible that we might need to apply for emergency credentials in these categories. And so we do our best to estimate, and then we submit it to the CTC, and we can apply for emergency credentials if we have to. And that's it.
Thank you. Anyone have a question or a comment? Nobody here in public or online? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve the declaration of need?
I move to approve item 11B.
I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Great, thank you. That passes unanimously. And still Marina for the next resolution now for certificated assignments outside credential authorization.
So here again, credential-related item. This is for folks who are teaching and they don't have a credential specific to that area. So in this case, this employee is teaching science, which you usually need a single subject science credential. But we are saying that we have determined that we think that this person is qualified enough to teach the subject, and we are doing a local assignment option.
Thank you. Would anyone like to move to approve this resolution, which we will do a roll call when it comes to our vote? Oh yeah, questions or comments? Anybody in the public?
I move to approve resolution number 2024-25-20.
I second the motion.
Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Student trustee Shepard?
Yes.
Student trustee Debdar?
Yes.
Trustee Inglis?
Yes.
Trustee Khan?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Vice President Mahoney?
Yes.
President Hopwood?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. So that resolution passes. And again, Marina, for the transitional kindergarten equivalent work experience.
Yes. So there are credentialing requirements. If you are going to teach transitional kindergarten, you have to have a multiple subject, and then you have to meet one of 3 different requirements. Either you have a early childhood permit issued by the commission. It's called a site supervisor permit, or you have 24 semester units of education in early childhood development or early childhood education, or both. Or 3, that you have a combination of, or you have work experience that is equivalent to the 24-unit requirement. And so we are defining what that equivalent is, so that if we have folks that have work experience, this is what the formula we're gonna use to determine if they meet the requirement. And it's just something that the Commission on Teacher Credentialing is requiring.
Thank you. Anybody have a question or comment?
I asked this before, so you'd be ready, but this is new this year. So this is like new that they're enforcing it.
They're actually enforcing it
Right.
starting in August, yeah.
Yeah, so it's changing things a little bit. And then I just wanted to know the, 360 clock hours, you're checking that was in early childhood instruction.
Preschool age, yes.
Preschool age, so that's how they're getting that. It's not just any teaching hours.
Correct. And the conversion that we're using is what we use when people are taking, like workshop hours or conference hours, and then they earn credit towards advancement on the salary schedule. This is the exact same conversion rate that we use.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? No? Anyone in the audience or virtual? Nope, seeing none. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve Resolution 2024-25-21.
We're not we're on 11D at the moment. Which one? Oh,
Yeah, that is
11. Oh, I don't have that on here. Okay, as the. Are you looking on?
It's
up there. Sorry, I was just looking on here. No, you're good. It's all right. We didn't. Okay, if it's the resolution, we'll do. Yeah.
No, I looked at the title and I was like, that doesn't sound right. And then
I'm looking at the
Yeah.
paper agenda. Okay, go for it. Sorry about that.
I'll second the motion.
So we need to do. So we need to do a roll call then, I guess, if it's a resolution.
Sorry. Student trustee Shepherd?
Yes.
Student trustee Devdar?
Yes.
Trustee Khan?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson? Yes. Vice President Mahoney?
Yeah.
President Hopwood?
Yes.
Trustee Inglis?
Yes.
Thank you. And so that is approved. And we are now going to move on to item 11E. Superintendent Stone will present this contract agreement with Schoolitics.
Good evening, President Hopwood and trustees. Tonight I am asking for approval of a new contract with Schoolitics. Schoolitics is a unified data platform that would be replacing what we're currently using with EduClimber. Schoolitics is a more robust system, and it would enable us to integrate all of our different student information system, assessment tools, and learning platforms so that we would have a more comprehensive view of our student-level data. And ultimately, the goal is that we would be able to have our data at our fingertips in a more facile way so that we could make better, more informed decisions around instruction and practices across the district.
Thank you. Does anybody on the board have a question or a comment about this contract? Go ahead.
I just think this seems like a really useful tool to add to our district, so I'm excited that you're bringing this forward.
I do too. I was quite excited actually about this. Kind of inordinately excited, yeah. Anyone else have a comment or a question about this?
Yes, I have a comment and a question. I too am excited about data. One of the things I found is tools solve part of the problem, but training and education, not just about the tool itself, but about data and how to use it is critically important. So can you talk a little bit about who you see as primary users of the tool and how you see getting them to be data fluent?
So, great question. The first thing that we need to do is we need to ensure that we are able to use the technical features of the tool. So the first, it would be more of like a concentric circle model of professional development, starting with the Ed Services Department and district level and site level leadership. Then the goal is to, and part of the contract actually that Schoolitics has, is to do professional development cycles with staff that will use, teachers that will use, and also any other staff that makes sense to be using the data. The goal, again, to your point, it's not that the tool is going to solve any problems. The goal is that we can access data in multiple different ways so that we can do deeper dives into what our students need. We can flag concerns. We can progress monitor towards our goals. And ultimately, we can share that information publicly with the community.
Anyone else have a question? Go for it.
Edge Climber, how is it different from Edge Climber?
Edge Climber is fine, but it doesn't have the tools. What I should say is the system itself doesn't hold all the features that this one holds, and it's not as accessible. I have observed this Schoolitics in other districts, and what you're able to do with it is a little bit more robust than what Edge Climber can do. I think Edge Climber has promise, but it hasn't brought us to that level. Also, what I love about this tool is that there's a dashboard that's pretty easy to read. So going back to Vice President Mahoney's question, training people on data, part of it is just reading data, and the better that it looks, the easier it is to read. So that's one of the features of Schoolitics.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? And do we have any questions, comments from our audience or virtually? And I'm not seeing any, so can I get a motion to approve this contract agreement with Schoolitics?
I move to approve the contract with Schoolitics.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So that contract passes. Thank you, was approved. And then we're going to move on to our staff reports. And again, Superintendent Stone will present her 90-day plan report.
All right. Once again, good evening, President Hopwood, trustees. I am excited to let you know that today is day 172 of my superintendency, which is very exciting, and that does include weekends and holidays. I am in the 4th month of my superintendency, and I have, as I can say, with 127 days in, I have completed my first 90 days. So tonight I am going to be reporting what I did between December 2nd and April 4th, and what I've learned from the time that I've spent here, and what my recommendations are in terms of moving forward based on the information. I will say I got very excited with using some AI in this presentation. I've been doing it recently in presentations just to play with it, because I think it's really important that before we make decisions about how we're going to use AI with our students, we need to ourselves use it. So I got a little excited about using Napkin AI during this presentation. So I'm just going to name that. I think it's a little bit fun. So what I spent my time doing is working on building relationships, gathering stakeholders, both in person and also through surveys, and looking at what people have shared and reviewing it in alignment with current district goals, LCAP, mission of the district, and then taking all of that information, sorting it, looking for patterns, looking for themes, and looking for what we as a district would want to move forward with in terms of next steps. So in the beginning of this time, I shared that if you're going to look at my brain on a piece of paper, it would be this circle of human experience, this above and below the green line. It's incredibly important that as we're thinking about school leadership, district leadership, that we're always toggling back and forth between the things that are below the green line, the relationships, identity, and information, as well as looking at the structures, processes, and patterns. And that was really the theme of my 90 days. What I was able to do. So I engaged with over 1,600 individuals, not all in person, but I was able through the survey to have about 1,600 folks give me information. It was inclusive of teachers, classified staff, administrators, families, and most importantly, students. Again, I was able to speak to some of these folks in person. And there was a range of different ethnicities that I was able to capture information from. I have, as you can see from the demographics, it does represent the district in terms of demographics, but I will just highlight that I would like to continue to spend more time centering voices of those who've been historically marginalized and racialized. The questions I asked were around three themes. What's working well in AUSD? What do we need to improve? And I asked for advice as a superintendent. So themes around what's working well. We hear this all the time. Part of the thing that is amazing about Albany is how small we are. And what that means is that we are like a family. It's a small district that fosters strong relationships and that really, really cares about and supports one another. Overwhelmingly, I heard over and over again how much teachers and staff were described as dedicated and supportive. Students were very excited about their music program, the arts program. Some mixed feelings about sports, definitely want more sports and more club access, but people who are within the sports community really enjoy and appreciate the sports. Students also value the freedom in course selection and their leadership opportunities. And affinity groups and student-led groups have really lifted up the voices of, again, historically marginalized, racialized communities. And so there was a strong appreciation for the equity and identity work that's been going on in the district, and the growing focus on anti-bias, and as well as Indigenous recognition. So some areas for growth. There was a call to continue to strengthen the rigor, the relevancy, and the inclusive teaching and learning practices. Students overwhelmingly talked about wanting to have more access to advanced high-quality courses, like AP courses, CTE courses, things that are readying them for college and career. And more staff overwhelmingly asked for more support in terms of professional development. And when I say staff, I don't just mean teaching staff, I mean all staff, classified as well. More of the goals around fostering inclusion and belonging for all staff and students came out as an area for growth. Enhancing comprehensive student support systems. In a previous board meeting, we talked about multi-tiered systems of support. That is what that is speaking about. Ensuring that students are getting their needs met, both academically, social, emotionally, and through mental health supports. A big theme that came up is optimizing effective use of our space at our school sites, how we use time, and how we're using other resources, both fiscal resources as well as human resources. And part of that is ensuring that there's transparency in what we're doing. That was overwhelmingly something that came up over and over again, is people wanting to really understand how decisions are made, why they're made, when they're made, and what we're doing. And so one of the things that I have immediately started to put in place is transparency around our budgeting process and making sure that it's very clear so that there are no questions about how we're using our funds. And also that it is a collaborative process where community have voice. And in relationship to all of that, some calls to strengthen communication, collaboration, and community engagement, especially community engagement across all sites. There's a ton of community engagement within sites, but I recently met with PTA leadership, and one of the things that they spoke about was really wanting to start to look at Albany-wide community engagement and doing some more of that intentionally. So some draft goals and priorities, and I say draft because I think it's very important that this is what I've heard and this is what the data is sharing, and I want to be able to bring this back out to the community to find out, is this, I think I heard this, is this what you told me, and get more feedback on it. But I think overall, the kind of the 6 areas that we might want to look at and focus on, and they're very much in line with some of our LCAP goals already, are continuing to strengthen teaching, learning, and leadership, specifically aligning curriculum coherently and focusing in on early literacy. Students were very clear they want to expand AP and enrichment opportunities, and one of the things that staff have said very clearly is that they want really clear understanding of professional development scope and sequence. And part of professional development is not just being talked at, but also having time and space to collaborate with one another. That was overwhelmingly something that teachers are asking for. More time, not just to collaborate within their grade levels at their school sites, but across the schools. And again, improving communication and shared decision-making. Continuing to advance inclusion and belonging. We want to continue to use student-focused information and use that information in decision-making. We want to continue to work towards diversifying our workforce so that it represents the students and the community that we serve, and continue our anti-bias focus. Students and staff also continue to speak of wanting to continue to improve, because we actually have some really great supports in place, but continuing to improve student supports. Part of that is monitoring how we're using those supports and having the data, which we talked about in previous board item, to make decisions around multi-tiered systems of support, and strengthening our tier 1 academic and SEL focus. Continuing to strengthen supports for our students who have IEPs, 504s, and who are multilingual learners. Standardizing those intervention tools and training, not just intervention for students who, oh, there we go. There's the internet. Not just strengthening those interventions for students who may need an IEP or a 504 or who are multilingual learners, but being really clear about who needs it and when, and doing targeted interventions that are fluid and flexible. And again, bringing back more student voice, continuing to think about spaces and bringing student voice into that conversation. We have already started to put together a facilities master plan committee, and we want to make sure that there's student voice in that space, because where they learn is something they should have a say in, and how and what it looks like. Again, going back to some of the big, very clear messages, really working hard to align resources, become really transparent about those alignments of resources, and streamlining systems. Again, some of these things I have already begun to work on, but these are things that we need to continue to focus on in the future. Optimizing facilities, making sure that the schools are really, really safe and really, really clean, because as we've talked about multiple times, students can't learn if they're not feeling safe, and we need our schools to look beautiful and represent how much we appreciate and care about our kids. We want to continue to think about our technology vision, and so we also, in this time, have developed a TK through 12 technology master plan committee, which is going to be meeting fairly regularly, at least for a little while, to come up with a vision and a plan around technology. And we also need to clarify how we're using our space, not only during the school day, but also with our after-school partners, and making sure that we're sharing space in service of our students, and specifically our most vulnerable students. And again, continuing to focus on engaging families and community, which means gathering regular input. So this listening campaign that I did is not going to be one and done. It's something that I want to continue and I want to bring back over and over again and go back and hear again. I heard this, we did this, where are we now? What do we believe is true now? Again, sharing clear progress towards updates, and I think my number one focus and the thing I heard the most is continuing to really center and elevate marginalized communities in our planning. So I'm not going to go in depth with each one of these slides, but I did put these slides together as a sample or as an option for what could end up becoming our strategic plan as we move forward. So if we're going to strengthen rigorous, relevant, and inclusive teaching and learning, we need to have some targets and we need to have some metrics. And ideally, those targets and those metrics are highly aligned with the work that we already started. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just move into a whole new world. We have done really excellent work over the last years, specifically around strengthening multi-tiered systems of support and ensuring that our teachers understand the needs of students, and so we want to continue to strengthen that. That said, we do want to focus in on the areas where we can have some wins, and one of those is really thinking about TK through third grade literacy and ensuring that our third graders are leaving third grade ready for fourth grade and reading. Again, there are other things that we can add to this, but this is just a sample of what we could be looking at. Advancing high quality instruction and staff support. Again, just thinking about what a target could be. I've heard this over and over again too, that the hiring, onboarding, retaining, and offboarding process is something that we should be working on, and we want to make sure that we're not only retaining high quality teachers, which I can say with very much confidence, Albany does an incredible job of retaining high quality teachers, but we also know that many of our high quality teachers are going to be retiring in the next 3, 5, 7 years, and so we want to have a plan for how we're going to develop and implement hiring of new talent. We also want to make sure that we are filling our substitute needs, not just for our teachers, but also for our paraprofessionals, our custodians, and our other classified staff. And as a result of all of this, we also do want to make sure that we're diversifying our community. So again, fostering inclusion and belonging for all, elevating student voice, especially student voice for those who have been historically marginalized, racialized, minoritized is important. And we already do a fairly good job of receiving information and data from our students. In fact, our student board members are going to be presenting on this in a few weeks. But we also want to continue to think about ensuring that we're really targeting and listening and believing the information, not just having our students go out and hear from other students, but actually our staff needs to do that as well. And we want to make sure that we're continuing to be as transparent as possible in all of our communication. One of the goals is around our website and making our website as accessible as possible and have the information on it that will really help people to understand what's going on in our district, but also make good decisions. Enhancing comprehensive student support systems. We want to continue to strengthen our multi-tiered systems of support. As I said before, really maybe with a clear focus next year on Tier 1 practices in academic practices as well as social emotional learning. one of the things that we have been doing since I've been here, we've done it now twice. We've gone on learning walks at the middle school and the high school. And when I say we, the principals, executive team, and I have gone on these learning walks, just not to look at teachers and do anything evaluative, but more to just look across the schools and see what are we seeing in terms of patterns, what are we seeing in terms of real strengths in our classrooms, and what are some areas that we can work on. And so when we think about working on Tier 1 practices, something that I think we've seen as a pattern across all schools is, number one, just how the relationship with students and teachers is so positive. It is such a warm, kind, caring experience across all of our classrooms, really. One thing that we also want to look at is how are all students able to access the learning. And so for some students, receiving auditory information is perfectly fine, works well, and for others, they need other inputs. And so that's one of the patterns we're looking at, is what are maybe some of those common things we could do across all of our schools that would help students access learning in a different way. It's a delay. There we go. Okay. Equitable resource planning and sustainable impact. Again, this is really about engaging school communities in resource alignment. We want to make sure that whatever we are doing in terms of our planning at school sites with budgeting, with programs, that there's community voice, that includes student voice, but community voice in those plans, and that we're ensuring that all of our budgets are transparent. And when I say budgets, I don't just mean school site budgets, I also mean district level budgets. We want to make sure that anyone could look on our website and see exactly where our priorities are, not just because they've read what our priorities are, but they can see how our dollars are matching our priorities. And we want to make sure that we have a really clear plan for our facilities and technology so that we're planning for our future, we're planning for our future enrollment needs, and we have beautiful, clean, welcoming spaces for all of our students. So I do want to thank all of the students, the staff, the families, and community members for their time and their input and engagement. I will say that getting 1,600 surveys back is pretty amazing. It really is. It's remarkable. And I just, how much people care about this community is so important, and it matters. And so really the voices have shaped my understanding of what we need to do. When I first came here, people kept asking me, well, what's your vision for Albany? And I kept saying, my vision for Albany is what your vision for Albany is, but I have to find out what that is. And I think I've very clearly been told what the vision is. And so now I remain committed to some of the things that I mentioned when I first came here, some of my core values. Definitely transparency, inclusion, and collaboration as we continue to do the work together. I would say one last next step that's come out loud and clear from this is that I would like to engage the community in actually coming up with a set of core values that guide our work together. And so that will definitely be one of our next things that we do as a community. But thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your engagement.
Thank you, and thank you for engaging the community. Anybody on the board have a question or a comment?
Thank you, Sarah. That was great and very helpful. I am new, so bear with me if this is a question that a lot of people understand, but how do we take those 6 goals that are quite big and work with the community, work with the schools, or I guess I should ask, who are we working with to get them into the strategic plan or the LCAP? Like how does that happen? What's the process and the timing?
So When community engagement is going well at school sites, these goals would be already called out in the school site plans. I have spoken to every principal, and I have spoken to multiple staff members and community members at every school, and I'm fairly confident that some version of this lives in all of the plans at school sites. How it gets into the LCAP is actually I'm going to be crafting the addendum to the LCAP this year, and so I'm going to be taking a look at our current LCAP, our current goals, and honestly taking a look at, based on what I've heard from the community, what we are going to continue, what we're going to not continue, and what we might need to add to our LCAP addendum, and then that will be presented here at the board, and that will be aligned with our district-wide budget.
Any more questions? Board? Board members, anything? You good? Anybody here in our audience have any questions? Anybody? And can I just ask you for? Yeah, would you like
Come up to the mic.
Come to the podium, and then we can hear you. Yeah. Well, if you come here, I think it'll be good. Sorry.
We were just noticing, and I've noticed this at Cornell as well, that so much focus is on literacy, and I feel like math is being forgotten. This has been the last several years. I feel like we've had no focus on math at all. Just to bring that up.
Yeah, did you have a specific question? Are you just kind of wondering whether? Yeah.
Bringing it up because it's not mentioned in the plan. I guess it's a question of why aren't we addressing math at all?
I appreciate the question. It's not that we're not addressing math. It's not that math isn't important. All of the different subjects, all the core content is continuing to be addressed. I think that the reality, though, is that we can only do so much and get really good at so many things at a time, and so we have to make a choice around a focus. And so we are already in line for an English language arts adoption for K-5 next year, and so we're going to double down on that and ensure that we're focusing and we're supporting our teachers to do the best that they can with the new curriculum and with the science of reading. That said, we do actually have, and we're in the process of putting together a math vision team, so that in a year from now, I'll be talking about how are we moving towards looking at our curriculum in math and what is the professional development we're going to be doing to support math. The other thing I would say is so much of math is actually reading. And so if our students are not reading, they are more challenged in math. Sometimes what we see is our students actually understand the concepts, but because they can't do the reading and understand what is being asked of them, they struggle with, it looks like they're struggling in math, but actually it's a reading difficulty. So we really want to make sure that we're moving in that direction. Last thing I would say is the state has asked all school districts, and it's a bill. Is it a bill or a law? Sorry, I'm misspeaking. Every district has to have a reading difficulty screener that they've adopted by the end of this year. And so because we're going to have that reading difficulty screener, it makes sense that we'll be able to really use that to see where we need to support our students in literacy. So again, best practice is to try and stay as focused as you can, but it's not to say we're not teaching math or science or arts or social studies. Those things are all very important. But we want our teachers to get really, really well-versed in that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to appreciate that last comment from Superintendent Stone, because having a child who is extremely good at math but struggles with reading and is now in 4th grade struggling with that reading component of math and like having to work through that, that was my immediate thought, was like, we can't get to the math until our kids really know how to read. and understand those math equations as well. So it's a two-part thing, but I appreciate that you brought attention to it as well, because we know as a district we have struggled with math for quite a long time as well. But you know, I do see the vision, and I do think we're going in the right direction. My comment was just kind of a more general one about the presentation. I think, not just as a board member, but also as a parent, I will say I felt like you, in your listening sessions, really did listen to what we were saying. And I'll say that more so from a personal perspective of some of the things that I think from my parent hat of like things that we have wanted to know from the district, what's actually happening, where do these puzzle pieces fit in. I particularly appreciate that in a lot of the things that you have in your goals and priorities, many of them complement each other. We've wanted to know, how does MTSS work? What does that look like within the district? Well, we can't really work on that unless we're giving our teachers a space to collaborate together. You know, like those are those things that go together that fit and build this larger vision of what we're wanting for a district. And so I feel seen and heard in that, like a lot of your goals not only complement each other, but also are pushing us towards the next steps of the larger vision that we want to see. So this is really exciting for me personally. So yeah, just really appreciate all of this and looking forward to seeing those progress points as we meet them.
Anyone else? Anyone else here or in our virtual audience? I'm not seeing any raised hands. Great. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. Okay, so we are now going to move on to the superintendent and board member reports. Vice President Mahoney, would you like to?
Sure, I'll start. A little bit of feedback, sorry. One other happening at Marin, I just want to highlight is that tomorrow is Marin Morning, moved back a week, Principal Coffee, so be there, be square. I want to give a big thank you to the Albany Children's Center, not just for being open during spring break, which we always often tend to forget about. I didn't forget, and you shouldn't forget either, but I had a great time at their walkabout night on Tuesday, where I felt like I achieved victory by successfully completing the scavenger hunt and getting my sticker. And then today, in fact, you know, it was kind of interesting. Spent Tuesday looking at the arts and activities done by preschool. And then today I was able to participate in the forum event at the high school. And so for those of you who don't know, forum sort of allows our 9th graders to explore both sides of challenging topics, explain why there's a problem, and think about what we can do both as individuals and as groups and as a community to kind of solve or address that particular issue. So to see everything from, and there I was able to see everything from like teens with social media and the negative impacts of social media on teens to commentary on the unhoused in the Bay Area and plastic in our oceans and numerous other presentations. But it just kind of highlights the growth and the diversity of watching kids go from really the littlest of littles to like having these thoughts and opinions of men like that were provoking me to think about the world in kind of really different ways. I also want to give a shout out to some of the design build stuff that the high school does as well. I was overjoyed one morning to see the sports display that the graphic design group had done and put up in one of the windows. Again, using the things around them to really kind of help and change the community in which they're living. And so, watching that kind of growth is, that's kind of why we're here. And so that was really heartening to see. So sorry for the ramble, but on to the next person.
Well, I enjoyed a walkthrough this morning at Albany Middle School with Principal Mapes and Superintendent Stone and observed a handful of classes in action. So I really want to appreciate all of the teachers who let us come in. It was a bit of short notice, but I really appreciated it. It's really hard for me to get into classrooms since I'm teaching also, but it was so cool to see what's happening. And it was really highlighted in your report that we can see the care that is given to the students. And I think it was really helpful for us to sort of zoom out and say, ooh, look, this is kind of like maybe an overarching area for us to focus on in the upcoming years, and to just reflect on what both of you raised. That's what I brought up. I said, okay, cool, we're doing language arts, and when's math? So I think that conversation is happening behind the scenes. It may not be something that we kind of put out on the front, and maybe we need to highlight that more, but there's definitely an awareness that we have some areas. And yeah, I just was really impressed by our middle school students and how engaged they were and how enthusiastic they are. I heard from some that they went on a field trip and learned to cook some Indian curry at the community center, and they were so thrilled. So it's fun that they're out and using our community resources and then taking that back into school. And there's just some really awesome learning and activities. I just wanted to highlight, there was one presentation in a Spanish class, and the students were just so responsible, beautifully presented, challenging themselves with their Spanish in front of their classmates. The classroom was like curated to showcase the learning. And from my other work, we're always talking about learning targets and posting those, and they were so clear, and I could see that it had guided the students' work, and it was really helpful for me to just even pop in and be like, oh, I know what they're doing, and I know what they needed to show, and I see it reflected, and so it was a really full circle, and I just wanted to sort of name that. And then was really grateful to see President Hopwood and other members of our community at the Marin auction on Saturday. It was very well attended, and nice to see parents out celebrating and the community getting together. So,
be prepared, it's a long one. And I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO about not being on one of these learning walks yet. So
get your schedule.
I know, we need to connect. A couple of things. The Ocean View PTA nomination committee has released the current slate of candidates who have been nominated for our executive board positions, and our election will take place during the association meeting this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the OV Library. We still have a lot of positions we would love to see folks fill. Even if you miss the election, you can still be appointed to one of those positions. So you don't have to wait for the election. You can, at any point say, I'm interested in taking on this role, and we can get you on the agenda and get you, approved. Last week, our PTA decided to extend the t-shirt contest deadline for the 5th grade graduating class to April 11th. Our PTA President Gasman and I were able to speak to all of the 5th grade classes about the extension and what the contest entails, and hopefully we can get one of our students' designs on a t-shirt for their graduating class soon. Our talent show auditions are taking place April 23rd. Please check the Principal's weekly newsletter. It contains so many amazing events that are happening throughout the year. At Ocean View, when I saw it, I was just like, okay, I need to punch all of these into my calendar because there's so many exciting things happening. This Monday, I was ambushed by a few students in my son's class who were eager to share how much they enjoyed the Eid and Holy celebration held by Swana at Ocean View. One of the students was like showing off their henna that they got. Another was telling me about how this was, quote, the best party they've ever been to. And they were even more excited to hear that we're hoping to continue to make this an annual event with AUSD. It was honestly amazing to see so many teachers, staff, their kids, parents and kids from like every single school, maybe not the high school, so we'll have to do some outreach there. But it was just amazing. We had a ton of AMS students who performed in one way or another. We had Omar and Anna who shared some historical and cultural information about the Eid celebration and Holi and what those mean to our communities. Rohan did a wonderful tabla, which is a drum performance. Miss Siti had like a number of AMS students doing various Bollywood dances. There was just a lot of amazing things. Principal Delgado saved us from potentially not having snow cones and averted that crisis. And Derek, our custodial staff, really made sure we were able to have a smooth setup and takedown. And Kim was there to document the wonderful event, which was exciting. And I appreciate the photos you shared with us. But, you know, it was an amazing way to see our kids feel represented and seen within the community and be able to share their culture and their, you know, celebrations with the rest of their peers, and then see them, you know, at school that very next Monday talking about how exciting and fun it was. I also want to speak to the Equity Council that we met last week. It's been a roller coaster. And I want to share my appreciation for Superintendent Stone for leading us through such a difficult conversation in such a graceful way, and making sure that we are respecting, you know, what our values are, what our goals are, and making sure that we can bring as many voices to the table and ensure that we are, you know, all feeling welcomed and safe, especially with such a huge rise in a lot of racism and hate in the last couple of months, and honestly the last couple of years within our country. And so it was just really wonderful to be able to be in that space. I personally left that space feeling very hopeful for what we are going to accomplish amongst all of the parent engagement groups. And I should have said that before. Equity Council is all of our parent engagement groups getting together so we can build a more unified front within AUSD and really share our cultures and, you know, our knowledge and build community with one another. So that was really exciting for me. And also thank you to all of our staff that were there and helping in whatever way. Julie, Kim, you know, Will, Deb, so many people were there to help us. Lastly, I want to give a huge shout out and appreciation to Ms. Banales, who is one of our wonderful third grade teachers who has taken on this initiative called Ocean View Positive Wednesday. She has a crew of students that, you know, draw beautiful positive signs. They have music, bubbles, chalk, just to get all the kids excited about being at school. You know, as the end of the year gets closer, kids kind of start tapping out. I think we all start tapping out. But I really appreciate that Ms. Banales took on this initiative and it's brought me joy being there, and I get excited about the bubbles. So, and you can see the kids, you know, dancing and having fun, and it's just really wonderful what our teachers are doing to get our kids excited. That's all, sorry.
Mine will be much shorter.
Gotta balance it.
So, at the high school, the PTSA met last week and honored the Reflections Art Contest winners, which I had announced previously, so that was very nice. The PTSA will be hosting a workshop about college essay writing, so for all of you parents of 11th graders, that is happening on April 29th, and they will be holding their elections on May 5th. In more exciting news, I think you guys all know we have a really amazing music program. And the Wind Ensemble is currently in New York, and they've been there, I think, since Saturday or Sunday. They're performing, they are doing workshops, they're engaging in cultural events, and they're performing at Carnegie Hall, which is really amazing. And the choir group is heading to Southern California tomorrow morning, also to do much of the same thing, although no Carnegie Hall. They're going to Disney. To play and to perform with the staff at Disneyland, and then also meet with other schools and perform and give feedback back and forth to other choirs. So that's very exciting. And prom is on April 26th, so get your tickets. I guess that's really just for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have a quick one too. Yeah, that was great. Moonlight auction on Saturday. That was Trustee Davidson, with one of her many hats, was hosting that. Piece of that was a PTA event. It was great. As you said, it was full, absolutely, so well attended. And then I was one of the three of us, I think, who went to the Freshman Forum in the last couple of days, and I listened to presentations about plastics, fast fashion, and wildfires, which were all enlightening, and so that was great to come. And actually, my oldest kid, who was a 2017 high school graduate, came with me because she's here at the moment, and it was a bit of a nostalgic visit for her. That was great. And also, I attended last week these two inaugural meetings that Superintendent Stone has launched, the Technology Master Plan Committee and the Facilities Master Plan Committee. so well attended, so many people interested. At this point, it was just staff kind of for the initial meeting. There'll be people, it's a process to join those committees, but it was so interesting, just the voices. People had such great perspective on both where they see the district going in terms of facilities and how to manage the kind of balance of technology, which is a tricky needle to thread for sure. And that is everything from me. And the next Board Policy Committee meeting will be on April 22nd from 5 till 7 at the district office, for anybody who would like to come. Any other board member? Go ahead, Aish.
Sorry, just one thing that I forgot in the student board member report. We're currently in the process of finding a new student board member because I'm graduating this year. And so far we've received the applications, and then we'll have an interview in 2 weeks. And then we hope to have like a candidate by the end of April.
And thank you for all of your work on that. That was not an easy feat, trying to get a date that worked for everyone who was on that committee to interview and to review the applications. And so now we're going to move on to item 14, which is matters introduced by the board, so future agenda items. Anybody have anything they want to add to a future agenda? No? We're good. Okay, great. So that just leads us to item 15, to adjourn the meeting. So meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And it is, I can only see the time, 8:14. Thank you.